All right, folks, good evening to you all. Welcome to the last edition of Journalist Hangout for this week. I am Citizen Jones Hussein. Now, today on the program, Buhari says the era of vote rigging gone forever, as Amechi assures EU of non-interference in INEC's work. NLC's Joint Central Working Committees, CWCs, meet as nationwide strike looms over minimum wage, Bayelsa communities sacked by flood waters, and later on, Boko Haram attacks IDP camp, 4 Borno communities sacked, and 15 people killed. I'm hanging out with Bola Olajuwon. Bola, good evening to you. Tony Waje, I've not seen you in a while.
Good evening, Mr. James. I'm fine.
No less so, Babajide Kolade Otitoju.
I've really missed you.
No, I have. You know, so I was wondering, you know. But I saw footage from Abuja when you folks had to cover the summit, and you were really enjoying it. Have you recovered from the trip?
I had a nice time in Abuja.
Have you recovered from the trip?
I'm still recovering.
Well, just to tell the viewer, Jide also got promoted. Have you been paid?
That will be next month.
Okay. Jide is, by definition, the new controller, news and current affairs of this station. So, gentlemen, we say to Jide, keep doing what it took you to get there.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
I guess you have no choice.
I promise.
Okay.
To give my best.
Okay, the team is ready. I hope you are. All right, then, you know, Africa's peculiar democracy appears to be about elections and more elections. Rigging the same elections to remain in power becomes second nature here. But President Muhammadu Buhari has vowed to hold the wild bull by the horns, that is, tame electoral manipulation, aka vote rigging, once and for all time. His august audience was the joint unions, African Union and ECOWAS Good Office's mission on elections, and it took place at the State House, Abuja, on Monday. At the same time, the DG of the President's campaign organization, Right Honorable Rotimi Amechi, has assured the European Union, the EU, that the ruling government would play by the rules, means it will accept INEC's results. Jide, so who's doubting this?
Yeah, you know, politicians have this attitude.
Yeah.
Especially if they plan to rig. They will first accuse the opponent of actually harboring a desire to rig. Remember, too, that when the PDP had this contest, this legal contest over the chairmanship of the national chairmanship of their party, the matter got to the Supreme Court. And the faction, the Alimodu Sheriff's faction, went to town accusing the rival faction led by McCarthy of planning to bribe Supreme Court judges.
Sometimes you're wondering if this is preemptive?
I mean, most likely, because you think that the opponent will do it. You also have a plan to do it. Because you think that the opponent will do it, okay. You first go to town to discredit the opponent. Or you do it so that the Supreme Court judges will not listen to your opponent, even if they had plans to take some money from them. You see, so this is the issue. The elections are, yes, a few months away. Politicians and campaigns will kick off officially on November 18th. And you can campaign right up to 48 hours to your election. You know, so why not concentrate on honing your strategies and ensuring that you do well in the election instead of thinking that someone
appeal to the electorate.
Yes, instead of thinking that someone actually has plans to rig. I was reading an article where someone, you know, in one of these online media outlets, and that person actually said, look, that Buhari has planned to rig the next election. To just declare without...
As if it was
and
there.
there is no in the story, I read it right up to the end, and I didn't see any indication, any proof whatsoever that could have necessitated coming up with that kind of a screaming headline
or allegation
that Buhari plans to rig the election.
But tell me you are not surprised.
No, I'm not surprised because in politics, especially in our kind of politics, we always want to diminish the opponent. We are not interested in a healthy debate, healthy campaigns.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, someone famously even says, look, this campaign, we are going to make it dirty. We are not going to, no, we are not going to behave like gentlemen.
Oh, yeah.
But that is not how politics it should be. That's not how it is in other lands.
This is why a cynic said, absolute power corrupts absolutely. But it adds the fear of losing power will corrupt the system absolutely. Tony, so rigging is native to Africa. Look at your Cameroon of the other day, and
the president coming
but the president telling you he wants to end rigging once and for all time is a tall order.
It shouldn't be a tall order. It shouldn't, first and foremost, we shouldn't even practice rigging. But unfortunately, that's the kind of election we do in this part of the world for a long time.
Yeah.
A politician goes to election to the poll with the intention of rigging. Majority of them. I came from Delta State, so I saw what happened to Patu Tommy. He never knew that this election is not a boardroom politics. It's a different ballgame mentality. The battlefield is different. He came and he saw a different thing. Right now, he's still, licking his finger. Yeah.
He's trying to recover.
He's trying to recover. So he's thinking he's going to get justice. But that's how it is. So it will be a welcome development if the president can actually stand by it. He's been a victim in the past.
The fear is this. Again, cynically, it was said, if the ballot truly determined the outcome of elections in Africa, they would make laws to change it. Are you saying the cynicism?
They make laws to change it. Yeah,
meaning you allow the ballot to be sacrosanct. That's our challenge here.
That's our challenge here. That is our challenge. So it's not it's not by just mouthing it. It goes a long way. There are procedures in doing that. And unfortunately, in Nigeria today, almost all the actors are guilty of this. So tell me who's going to, take care of that process to ensure that change. It will be difficult. Even if the president wants a change in their direction, a lot of people hanging around him, we make it difficult. He's not going to go on the field to do this himself. Yeah. So that's just what I'm looking at.
Bola, the old Russian dictator, Joseph Stalin, said, casting the ballot is not the thing. Counting ballot is everything.
Yes.
You trust INEC to...
You see, from what I've seen, from Anambra election, Osun election, Ekiti election, look, let's be realistic with ourselves. INEC has done well. But what about the other stakeholder? The politicians, the parties, and give it to this government, Buhari government. He has really tried to make sure that, the votes of Nigerians counts. But will the players allow that to happen? That is the question.
Will they allow that to happen?
In Nigeria here, if you say somebody rigged you, that means they super rigged you out or you didn't perform.
Okay. You didn't rig properly. Yes. You did, quickly, the last leg is the DG of President Buhari's campaign organization, Rotimi Amechi, says to the EU, we will make sure we abide by the outcome. Do we really need to impress the West? I don't know if you get my mind.
No, I don't blame Amechi when Amechi talks that way. It is the notion that the opponents of the president have been trying to promote that, even if we defeat this president, he will not hand over. That's what they've been saying. And they are going abroad, they are going everywhere to try and give the impression that this president will not allow a free and fair election. So Amechi, as a representative of the president, has now had to come out and look, whatever happens, we will abide by the decisions of INEC. So it's in that way, it's trying to disabuse the minds of the international community, because I figure that we are going to have a lot of observers coming into this country just to monitor the election, because our politicians have been going around demarketing the country and giving the impression that this election, that the current government is not interested in a free and fair election. But one of the ways, in my view, that a government can actually give itself immortality is to institute, is to make possible free and credible elections. Jonathan has done his best. In fact, the act of even bringing Jega in the first place, going around begging people to appeal to Jega to accept the job, suggested that he wanted a free and fair election. Yeah. So I respect the president, the current administration, to build on that.
And conceding defeat made everything for me beautiful.
That is what today outside Nigeria is respected.
Yeah.
Because people didn't expect that. People expected that we'll kill ourselves over the 2015 election. But the act of conceding defeat, when it was clear that Buhari was on coasting home to victory, nullified all the projections that Nigerians will slaughter themselves over the 2015 election.
Tony Bola, and for the former president to pick up the telephone and phone Buhari, congrats, sir. That for me made our day as a country. Sure. We can build on that.
Sure.
Okay, let the debate continue. But I think two key people are striking here: the INEC and the Nigerian elector. Okay, then we'll pass over. You know, a strike-fatigued country like our own, it may be argued, must be bracing up for a nationwide strike proposed for next Tuesday by the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, over a vexed question of a national minimum wage. NLC's Joint Central Working Committee, comprising the NLC, Trade Union Congress, and the United Labour Congress, rose from an emergency meeting in Lagos yesterday and said the die is cast and that there was no going back on the November the 6th date for the nationwide strike. When Labour advises workers to stockpile foodstuff and other necessities, then you fear it means business?
Yes, and we can only hope at this stage that it won't get to that. It is my hope that it won't get to that, because we will be inflicting unnecessary pain on the Nigerian people. Strikes are very painful exercises, and I'm already seeing so many Nigerians lining up to take some money at the ATM points, because they know that on that final day, the day before the strike, that they won't be able to cope with the crowd. There will be, large crowds at ATMs, at banks. You know, a lot of us like to do things at the last minute. So some are already taking what they can take now, so that they can buy food and prepare for what could turn out to be maybe a 72-hour strike or even more than that. But I still think that between this time and the midnight on Monday, it's possible.
Reason can prevail.
Reason can prevail, and NLC, the NLC can be
they can meet somewhere in the middle.
Appealed to even return to the negotiation table, because they've said that no, we are not negotiating anymore. They feel that, look, what has been done to them amounts to an insult, because all through the meetings, the tripartite meetings, and they have minutes of the meetings which they have said they are going to show to the president.
They did.
That, look, these meetings, it was agreed that the minimum wage shall be 30,000 naira. So where did the 22,500 come from? So it's like just stepping on the tail of the tiger as a way of provoking it. Because what is the point? What is the point? If you agreed, one governor representing a geopolitical zone on that tripartite committee, 6 of them. So if the rest of whatever decision is reached, the governors representing the remaining 30 governors, their decision is binding on other governments. So you can't now come and say, no, you are going to 22. It's an insult. When everyone sat back, it's just like, you are taking people for a ride.
Tony, so let's expand the logic some more. You know, we are talking about a national minimum wage, which should never have been at issue in the first place. It's a constitutional matter. Can we reconcile this with the humongous salaries a National Assembly people take, and they're never owed?
National Assembly, executive and all that.
Executive and so on, and each governor has a retinue, and so on and so on. They are promptly paid. What are we saying here?
We are not telling ourselves the truth. And as long as we continue to go like this, we'll keep having the same problem. They don't take Nigerian workers seriously. That's just the truth. And for me, I think it's more on the side of the Nigerian Labour Congress. In the past, Nigerians looked up to them. It's not when it comes to, like I've said it in other forums, it's not when it comes to salaries, bordering on workers. There are other Nigerians who look up to the Nigerian Labour Congress. When issues are, not bordering on workers' pay comes up, and they don't do anything about it. You can see the way it is now. It's like, it's a labor thing. It's people in the private sector are not bothered. If the labor union have carried, this is the same country where the labor union is polarized. We have this one, and they don't come together. That's why the government is taking them. Look, I saw today, some couple of hours ago, I think I saw a breaking news where Nigerian Industrial Court ruled against the strike. So I don't even know the level right now. They ruled against the strike. So I don't know.
NLC has a history of disobeying the...
Yes, so that's the situation we find ourselves right now. So
a factionalized labor is not helping.
Yes, that is the problem.
Interestingly, on this matter, they've been united.
You don't smell a rat.
I know where this is. Joe Ajero started, then the Ali Uwaba.
They've been united.
What they're asking for is legitimate. What they're asking for is legitimate. It's something. What is 18,000 naira for crying out loud?
Just 1,000 per day.
It's nothing
for a worker who has kids, who has dependents, who must pay his rent.
And for that matter, how much is 22,500?
Even that 22,500. What is 22,000 for crying out loud? These people they receive so much. The governors,
their aides,
the legislators, the aides.
But they don't
owe them. What we hear now is that senators actually receive 45 million.
You see?
Yes.
The truth is,
when you add what
it's just a matter of
time.
So that's the
all of the money.
Bola, you don't want to see any pay slip, but we say there are issues on the floor. We must look at them straight. Are we not strike fatigued, or should we not be at it? Why must it get to a point where the labor will call for a nationwide strike before anything happens?
To me, as a person, we should not be discussing about strike. We should be discussing about, cutting the cost of governance and telling these people that they are thieves. What are they doing with all the money that they have, the funds they have at their disposal? We are not seeing anything so worthwhile. And they cannot even pay 22,500. What is it to them? Because to me as a person, you see, the issue of lying or fighting over, what they agreed on the issue of 30,000 or whatever, shouldn't even happen. But because one thing about us here in this country is that record keeping is even a problem. Talking of what you are saying or what you are using your mouth to say. Instead of, I know very well that some people are taking notes of the discussion, or some people took note of the discussion they had there at every stage of the negotiation. But maybe somebody was sleeping, or whatever, or somebody is being mischievous.
Mischievous is the word.
Yeah, that is my own take about it. Because you see, the issue is that the level we are today, I'm telling you, we don't need EU, we don't need International Republican Institutes.
Not even
anybody, ECOWAS to come over and tell us, and you can see what is happening now. They know us very well. UN Secretary General sent, somebody here, a special representative, to come and meet the stakeholder. They met, with the federal government, the armed forces, the military. What is happening? We are overheating the politics. It shouldn't be happening. I'm sorry to say it.
How many months to the elections we are going to have this?
And then, if you look at it very well, I'm sorry to say it. As of today, we don't need two chambers of national assembly.
Well, yeah.
I'm telling you, one day you will see.
It will happen.
No, it will come. You will see.
It will happen. It will happen.
Bola, you are getting too agitated.
No, I'm not.
He is looking at how we can free some funds.
We're wasting so much money.
We can't be saying there's no money to pay the 30,000, which is 1,000 a day. For the average worker. That is for days that are not up to for months that are not up to 31. You know, we need to find a way to free some funds.
For me, you may have 2 chambers of the National Assembly, but whatever we pay them should be reasonable.
It should not be in the region of 45 million a month, as we are hearing. That's a lot. It's not. You see
sorry, Jide. So at this point, should NLC be calling out Nigerian workers out for a strike, or they should know who to target at a point like this?
No, the strike appears to be the language that the government understands. Exactly. At this point, it's inevitable. And it looks to me like they are going to get a lot of sympathy this time. Because people can see, look, what the law says is that every 5 years you review the minimum wage. And the last time it was done was June 2011. So we are already even behind. So the question to ask is, what have we been doing? Why should we get this close to election? Because the election is weighing heavily on the minds of our politicians. They are thinking that, look, if we don't do something, this
look at the speed
put us in trouble.
Look at the speed with which they pass the money to spend for elections.
Yes.
And here we cannot talk about...
And that one had been there since we had known since 2016 that we must come up with a new minimum. We had known. The president inaugurated the tripartite committee, and for 3 months, there was no meeting. So that's why we found ourselves in this mess. And now NLC is saying, look, punish governors that are not ready to pay you the minimum wage. Punish them during the elections.
Tony, again, we'll expand the logic and begin to talk about IGR allow states to exploit the natural resources. You know, I don't know how they maybe go back to the drawing board, so that no state will say, we cannot pay, sorry, we cannot pay this. Because many states, I understand, don't even know how much their IGR is.
How would they know? When they go to Abuja every month to collect. At times, before they even get back to the state, they share the money.
It's not a priority.
It makes the state so lazy. Governors come, they want to go to Abuja at the end of the month. They say the commissioners, at times they go with their commissioner, logged in a hotel. The commissioner comes and tells them, bring the details of the sharing formula. And they share, before they get back to the state, the money is empty.
They just take their security vote. That's what they're after there. They are not, they just take their security vote. And
they don't even know if any natural resources exist in their state. It's not, it's inconsequential to them. Because that easy money is there. The oil money is there for them.
Oh boy, if you go to Benue,
maybe that's the day they start reasoning.
You go to Benue, you see oranges. Fruit. Rotting away, rotting away on the trees. Why can't governors from that state work and ensure that some processing companies even come to fully take advantage?
You are attempting seriously to break Bola's heart. No.
I don't want to watch sentence for it.
I'm used to it.
No, we are saying Benue is not just the food basket, the fruit basket of this country. You know, drive through the Benue forest, oranges, mangoes rotting away. Yeah, rotting. Just as they are said.
There was a time I went to Erua, in Oyo. You can't sell mango there, and you will make it a life. Nobody will buy from you. Why? Because you see on the tree, it's everywhere.
Yeah. Where is that?
Yeah.
Erua is in Erua. I went there.
You're not.
I went there. When I saw it, somebody told me that we don't sell. Nobody can sell mangoes here.
Wow.
If you sell mango in your life, you will not be able to eat or feed yourself.
It's everywhere.
See, let's come back to something. Look at it. See, there's a law saying that if the price of a barrel of oil should surpass certain amount of money, the federal government should negotiate and get more money. it took about 4 or 5 states to force the federal government to look into that law. Though the Supreme Court judged the matter, but it was based on an agreement between the state attorney general and the attorney general of the federation. They sat down, they agreed, and the Supreme Court now used that as a judgment. Should we be doing that? See, as at today, I can tell you categorically that, look, it's in the courts already. The federal government took multinational oil firm to courts, saying that, look, from forensic investigations, you took so amount of oil to so area in the U.S. And they name all these states. They still disputed it. They went to court. They are fighting it now.
Oh, okay. Bola, it's okay. It's okay.
Leaking badly.
This is a hangout. It's a tiny table, so don't make it tinier.
No, I'm not going to
Shake the table.
We'll go on this break and return. Okay, then, if you missed it, know now the Unified Labour, the Trade Union Congress, the NLC, and the United Labour Congress have jointly declared November 6th, a Thursday, that's a week from now.
It's Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday next week. Come on, can you imagine?
Yeah.
It's here already.
Exactly. It's moving.
As the day for the national strike, you've been advised to stockpile food in your, and this is, for me, this is like sending alarm bells. Alarm bells are sounding. So stockpile. So the gra don't start from now.
Yeah, sure. You know, to me as a person, I think my place of work, they've paid my salary. I should be able to stockpile some food as advised by the government.
Like last month when the strike came through.
But in any case, many people are not in that position. You understand me? It's a terrible situation.
Yeah, the Nigerian worker.
Yeah. Because
Tony, you've been paid? Don't say it on national TV.
Okay, but you know I'm answering
but we are saying the Nigerian worker should never be allowed to go through this treatment. And by the same token, we are talking about retirees who are also owed by states.
Owed many months.
That is the most annoying part of it. Retirees. My dad is a retiree.
Your state Delta is owing.
Yes.
And this is not the marketing my Akwa Ibom if I say it is owing. Also owing. I don't know about your...
There's a problem everywhere.
I think it's
one thing you must give Buhari credit for is that when it comes to workers' welfare, Buhari does not want to see workers suffer. That's why he came up with this idea of bailout back then. Bailout.
Just done it 3 times?
The first bailout was the real bailout.
Okay.
The others, you are talking about refund.
Okay.
They will argue that it's their money. You know, that is Paris Club. This is our money, this and that. And then, of course, budget support that government has been giving this day so that they will be able to pay workers. Remember, Buhari met traditional rulers and he said that he does not even understand how governors sleep, knowing that you've not paid someone his wages and you can feel comfortable to go to bed. You know, so now, airway staff, other categories of people too who have been owed for many years, he has tried to at least release money for these people so that they can be happy. And even pensioners, military pensioners. So he doesn't want this pain to continue. He's looking for ways of solving the problem. But the problems remain.
Yeah.
remain.
It remains because he has gone through it. He's retired from the military and all that. So he knows the pain.
Yeah.
He may be getting his own, but his colleagues may not be getting, people. He knows people at that level. So it's painful. We may be genuinely interested, but the state governors are not interested. So it goes beyond the federal.
So he can only try his best.
Let's wrap this up. As an aside, I remember the former governor of Anambra State made a statement, I'm still fighting to believe him. He said at a public forum, any governor who dips his hand into the public till must have his head examined. That office of First Lady takes 2 billion naira every month, and you multiply that by 12 and by 36. Okay.
That's not talking about the kickbacks that they collect from
and kick fronts too. Okay, then the idea is not to dampen your Friday. It was payday here day before yesterday at our office.
Yes.
I never even go check my...
Yes, you are so
That means you must be rich.
You are so comfortable and you are telling your people.
No. They didn't hear that.
Okay.
Okay, then, let's pass over. You know, the rains are here in full force and with attendant floods in tow. So perhaps palpable fears of an epidemic has heightened tension in Bayelsa State, where communities have been displaced by floods, perennial flooding. In a literal sense, Bayelsa State is a state underwater. Farmlands, livestock, and homes have been sacked. Yes, the floods were foretold, but could we have done anything about them?
Oh, in Bayelsa especially, I doubt if we could have done anything. You see, it's been global warming. Global warming is one reason we have irregular rainfall. It's one reason we have irregular rainfall. And when you have irregular rainfall, unusually high volume of rainfall, as we've experienced in places like Bayelsa, there will be flooding. Because I look at Bayelsa, I look at the areas affected. It's like almost more than 70% of the entire state covered by water.
Okay.
So where do people go? All the schools have been shut. The government has no plan to reopen those schools for now because they are still covered by water.
So, sorry, gentlemen, pictures don't tell lies. So we have a story on the flood disaster in Bayelsa. Let's share with you.
This was the experience of several states, including Bayelsa in 2012, a Grade A flood disaster state strategically characterized by lowlands of about 6 meters below sea level. At the peak of the ravaging flood, farmlands were washed away, along with damage to property, causing movement to strategic highlands and migration from rural to urban areas for safety. The flood held its peace, and the people returned home, only confronted by resettlement challenges. 6 years after, the natural hazard poses yet another potent threat by sweeping through communities, evoking a sorry tale from its victims in Sampo, Igbogene, Amasoma, Biseni, and other areas.
We have a kind of Bamanika me, and Benny Bodap Mane or Tungola Mapa, Swang Barakbafa.
We are very prone to diseases like cholera, diarrhea, and all the rest. Our Jeep oil company and equally the Shell company, which is SPDC, we are calling on them to really help us. We are really suffering.
The lamentations of displaced persons echoed in Government House, Yenagoa, prompting a swift response from the Bayelsa governor, who toured some affected areas, including Tororua, his hometown. Deputy Governor Boribua Jonah ensured that health units were established in all the IDP camps.
All the major rivers and tributaries through which water flows from the River Niger and Benue to the Atlantic pass through Bayelsa State. 70% of our communities are under water now, and people are now grappling for survival.
All the water we've seen from Lokoja, from Niger, will end up here. And so many more people will be affected. And so we have seen, I've gone down with His Excellency, the governor and the deputy governor. I've seen myself, and I think it is pathetic. And I'm taking the report back home. And more support will come from the federal government.
overwhelming scientific consensus maintains that climate change is due primarily to the human use of fossil fuels, which releases carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the air. The gases trap heat within the atmosphere, which can have a range of effects on ecosystems, including rising sea levels. And that is also a contributory factor to perennial flooding in Bayelsa.
We have an ecological fund sitting in Abuja, and the people of the Niger Delta that produce the oil, we are giving a paltry 13%. And 87% is left in Abuja.
All right, then, the pictures tell it all. And, you know, it is said that a stroke of nature, Bola, will rubbish man's inventions. Climate change is not from nature. It is man impacting, the climate negatively. So what do we do now?
See,
where do we start?
Is a problem of making use of data and even making use of science and knowledge. How many months ago, we have an agency that warned that this will happen, but people didn't take it into consideration. Then even the siting of the houses around that area. One should know that, look, when you site a building on, water paths, a river bank,
in low-lying areas,
you will face the consequence. Yeah. Okay, see, like 3 weeks ago, I went to Ikorodu by the river bank, maybe Ajegunle or other areas before moving to Ogolonto, Majidun area. I saw houses submerged. Those areas were not like that, like,
those buildings, those buildings were approved.
Yeah, they were approved. That is what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying.
That's where the problem is.
That is where the problem. I'm saying that, look, people are not making use of data. They are not making use of science and knowledge.
So because of all those people are not even
yes. And not only that, you see that, look, maybe government should come up with another procedure. Okay, you want to give money to some people. Some people will start making money from that too. They should look for an arrangement whereby maybe they should take over the job from councils.
In the footage we just saw, the man said, so much money lying at Abuja in the name of ecological funds.
But remember very well, before the coming on board of Buhari, state governments were going there to collect this money, and they used the money for their own campaign and for election.
Tony,
Daria is in trouble now.
Yes. What of Fayoshe? Fayoshe went there to collect. I'm sorry to say it, allegedly.
No,
allegedly.
If it is a fact, don't be sorry. If it is not,
they said it.
Sorry.
They said it.
Okay.
If you are sure, don't.
If you are sure, don't be sorry.
We know that Daria is being tried for issues of ecological.
Tony, and every town planning, every ministry of the environment must have a town planner. So when you are approving a building site, you take so many things into account.
Yeah. But that's the corruption in the system we're talking about. Our problem is corruption. Three problems. Right. Yeah, three problems on corruption. We know how this thing works. Go around Lagos, you see some buildings, they will market because you see that maybe the builder is not experienced, or the materials being used for the construction of that building didn't meet requirements.
Remember, if we throw this in, the story of the church in Akwa Ibom State.
Yeah, that came down.
That came down. It was boldly written there, stop work, by the Uyo City local government, and work went on.
Yeah. So that's what happened. So the governor was even there. The governor was there. They
collapsed. Once these things affect big and influential people in society,
you never hear the story anymore. Yes.
If a big man builds a skyscraper on a drainage channel, it will be difficult for them to remove the building because he's going to press buttons here and there. At the end of the day, they will leave him alone.
So the bigger the man, the more the impunity.
On the issue, it's not going to be possible. we know how it is here. The issue, like in Bayelsa, for instance, when we say 70% of the state is affected right now. It's painful.
Schools closed.
But we need to be proactive. Let's take Bayelsa out of it. Summing it up, let's take Bayelsa out of it. Our government needs to be more proactive.
Tony, Bola, and Jide, we can tell you for free here that beginning from Zamfara, all the states adjoining, lying along the rivers have been, set to be, have been warned to be ready.
Yes.
For the worst. It has happened there.
But
they want to, because it's the national annual ritual. It happened every time. Yeah. So now, I've heard cases where governors will say, relocate, move away, because it's going to happen. The question is to move away to where? We want a government that will prepare shelter, temporary shelter for these people when it comes, just like it happened outside the country. When the time comes, you move. And after, you can come back. But it happens all the time. We
leave it there, and for me, this is not a time when you say, it is not my portion. It is everybody's portion. Okay, all right. Any story about an attack by the dreaded Boko Haram group cannot edify anybody or thing at all. No fewer than 4 people have been killed when suspected Boko Haram terrorists raided an internally displaced persons IDP camp on Saturday. The strike on a hapless people at the camp speaks to the unconscionable modus of the group. The attack on the Banki IDP camp near the border with Cameroon is a constant reminder that we are so many light years away from safety, Jide.
Yes, and we keep talking about it so that we encourage our soldiers to realize that the battle has not been won. Boko Haram attacked 4 communities located along the road to Bama. Bama is service on the road to Goza, and Sambisa Forest is in that area. Some parts you can move into Sambisa Forest through that area. So you expect that those boys can come in through bush paths, come in, kill people, and get away. So, but they took their effrontery to Dizen Heights by chasing people from those communities, because there is a very big IDP camp located in Dalori. Dalori is just after the University of Maiduguri. So that IDP camp is not far from the communities, the villages that were attacked, the 4 villages that attacked. So they were chasing people, and those people ran into IDP camp. And Boko Haram still went into the IDP camp to kill people. So you've killed people, you set ablaze houses in those villages, and then those fleeing the attack decided to take refuge inside an IDP camp, a big IDP camp. In fact, Dangote constructed, he constructed the housing estate just beside that
the camp.
Yeah, beside the camp. And then you move into the IDP camp that is supposed to be manned and the people protected. You moved in and killed more people. Then attack the market that is located opposite the place.
That's daring.
The audacity with which they carry out some of these attacks suggests that these guys must be taken seriously.
Oh yeah, and time is of the essence.
Yes, you saw what happened there even some days back. If not for the Air Force, they had to quickly deploy even 2 Mi-35s and some other platforms just to stop them from taking over an army base, because their own hobby now is to attack military bases. Yeah. Why? Because they want to steal weapons, they want to steal guns.
I hear the IDP camp, they stole supplies and so on, and stuff.
Yes.
So the Boko Haram started like a child's play in 2002, and today here we are dealing with a Frankenstein. Is it insurmountable?
It's not. It's not. Government every day, I think government is making effort. Maybe what we need at this point, because when you hear stories like this, it's scary. It's scary, and I mean, for how long are we going to be hearing stories as this?
But the audacity which is just
that's my fear.
must be coming from an angle of, look, I have this info for you.
Yeah, I'm going there. Instead, there is a sabotage somewhere.
Yeah.
Even before now, we've heard stories like that. You know, among, even most times, within the troop itself, we hear sabotage, information passing out, how they take them unawares. And I mean, by now, we're supposed to, what I'm thinking is, at this level, maybe we need to change our strategy. Things has to change so we can get different results. I've heard many cases, I've heard many times calls for the change of the service chief. That's my opinion. Many times. Because when you bring new heads, new ideas comes. We cannot be having this simple, it's not for the Minister of Information to come and say, they've been technically defeated. The next they're going to hear something different. So maybe we need to change certain things. That's what I think. Because I don't see any big deal in doing this and see the results we're going to get at the end of the day. But how many years are we going to go through this?
And you hear crazy things like some people are reaping bountifully from this rubbish.
Yes, sure.
You believe that?
Yeah, I believe. You see, the issue is this. I used to believe that it's only state actors that has the instrument of cohesion and conquest. You understand me? But in the case of Boko Haram, they've changed the dynamic or dynamism of that particular Muslim. You understand me? You see, look, they did that because government has been able to cut off their supply. They now felt that, look, this is a time whereby people are fasting and more food are already there for the IDP. It's better one for us, you know, to stage an attack, make sure we go there, get, you know, food stock, get arms,
and go back.
And go back. Then wait, and then you attack again. And also remember, these people always do this during rainy season, because, you know, rainy season used, you know, to tame the movements, you know, slow down military operation. You understand me? And these people, they are waiting all the time.
So you know, it's like you can see, you're sitting down here, you can tell, you know, the modus operandi. So why can't government nip it in the bud and be ahead of them?
You see, and also that, if you look at it, what about the community? You see, like, it's not that the community